We're live. It's just me, Davis featuring Drip. We're back for episode 2. Banks versus Davis podcast. That's where you can find this show. Banks and I will be back on Tuesday. We've kind of switched from Sundays to Tuesdays. Unofficially, it's just the way schedules are working out. But I wanted to do another solo show last week. I wasn't feeling well. The last few weeks I've been having a bad head cold. We're finally getting some winter weather as spring marches on here and as spring approaches here in Minnesota. But yeah, thank y'all for tuning in last time when I talked about AEW by myself. Banks chimed in from time to time. He was just producing, but no Banks this week on the production. It's just myself. So trying this, see how it goes. But I'm gonna give people a few seconds, I should say, to tune in, and I'll be running down the last week of AEW, reading off the results, kind of giving my takes, opinions, unpopular opinions, as Kiki told me after I finished my first episode. Is I say a lot of things people don't probably don't like, but that's how I feel. Again, I don't believe in saying bullshit for the sake of it, because that's the thing that's wrong with a lot of wrestling podcasts today. Is people are scared to say how they actually feel, whether they like something or don't like something, because they worry too much about other people's opinions about it or how it can affect potential interviews and access and all that. And I really don't care about that. I mean, I don't think I'll ever get to that point, or will get to that point. Banks and I should say. If it happens, it happens. That's cool. But if that means having to say I like something I don't, or not saying or hating something I actually like, I don't believe in that shit. It doesn't make any sense to me. I wanted to do a WWE episode last week, switch it up, not be so AW centric, but given how next week will be WrestleMania, Banks and I will be trying to do a WrestleMania predictions preview type of show. We had a special guest in mind. Schedules weren't able to match up with this person that we had planned on bringing on. But someone whose wrestling opinions I want to talk about in the future. So hopefully we can get this individual back on. But we might try to reach out to some other people, get their thoughts and feelings on the way night 1 and night 2 of this year's WrestleMania are looking, just based off, especially after SmackDown with the Jay Cargill match being announced. But yeah, so I'm going to get into this past week's Dynamite. And right off the bat, I'm going to say Dynamite was phenomenal. And then Rampage and Collision were like dog shit. It's insane the difference between the two shows. They put all their effort into Dynamite, and then Rampage and Collision were just scraps. But also, both shows were. It showed how weak the roster is right now, and that's either due to the fact that people are off working in other promotions. Obviously, the BCC were in CMLL on Friday night, but even though Cesaro, Claudio, and Danielson made their way back. But as I get into Collision, I'll be like, why did this have to happen the way it did? Especially on Rampage, too. There's other talent that can be utilized in these spots. And yeah, so I'm going to get started with Rampage. I'm reading all the results off of Wrestling Observer. Like it or not, I just like to use it as my resource. And I kind of, there are people there that I respect and who do the hard journalism work that most of us don't want to do because it's actual journalism. But so Will Ospreay defeated Shibata in the opener, and this match, my match of the week, I ain't got to get into it too much in terms of like its competition, because there is no way anyone else in wrestling could top what these two guys did. And Will Ospreay continues to show why he's the best wrestler in the world, and now he's just doing it on TV at, I would say, a toned down, but not really. He still kind of goes all out. He doesn't do all the big flips and dives. He'll save that for the bigger matches and the pay-per-view quality matches. But he doesn't water it down or take it easy. So it's still Will Ospreay. And again, he was showing more of his technical side, his hard-hitting side. And Shibata looked a lot better in this match than he did against Danielson. And I was somewhat critical just in terms of how Shibata's looked in previous matches. He was slowly getting better of each match in the last couple of years. But this match really showed like, oh, Shibata might be back in this, different mode that he's been in, obviously working from the injury he had and just trying to regain his footing after a long delay and knowing he can only wrestle a certain style. But I mean, Will Ospreay kicked him in the head. He used the hidden blade on him. They weren't really holding back, and Shibata, he used his striking to beat the shit out of Will Ospreay, and there's some good back and forth between Shibata's forearms being stronger than Will Ospreay's, and Will Ospreay sold those well. Ospreay's forearms didn't make a dent in Shibata. It was more of his kicks and just the energy and the pace. Like I said, the Shibata-Danielson match picked up in the last half compared to the first half. But Ospreay-Shibata was, from start to finish, amazing, a classic. And again, and to see this on TV, I don't want to get too much into the ratings, not just because of the competition that AEW is facing, but the ratings are what they are at this point with Dynamite. They're going to be good. They're going to be bad. Yes, they've lost big draws in the past. The CM Punks, the MJFs, who were up and down draws over the last year. Kenny Omega, obviously being injured, is a huge factor, but still, Tony Khan had tweeted AEW were the best wrestle, and I do agree with that until I get to Dustin Rhodes and Matt Menard on Friday night. But this is what he means. He's going to give you Will Ospreay, Shibata on TV for 20 minutes, and on Monday nights they can do that occasionally. There's always a big Gunter match. SmackDown will kind of have that from time to time. NXT, it's weird. There's Dragunov, there's Carmelo Hayes, there's Nathan Frazier and Axiom. But overall, again, if you want to see wrestling, it's AEW. That's where you got to go. And Will Ospreay is just showing how good he is to the American audience, even though a lot of us already know how good he is. But he's getting to show it to the national TV audience as they're hyping this Danielson match. And it's going to be an amazing match to see once it finally happens at Dynasty. I wonder where Shibata goes from here, because they're kind of setting him maybe for an international title run, I'd hope. Him and Roddy Strong going at it. Kyle O'Reilly has kind of hinted that he would like to step back in the ring with Shibata. Maybe they kind of have a title eliminator between themselves, and the winner gets Roddy Strong. I'll get to that when we talk about Kyle O'Reilly's match last night on Collision. But I said my match of the week, already getting it out of the way, is Shibata and Ospreay. The video package about Bryan Danielson, don't want to get too much into that. There was the backstage segment between the Young Bucks, Okada and Renee Paquette. And like I said, I'm very tired of this Young Bucks EVP act. The second it started, if they took it more seriously with actual suits, and not too much of the wink wink Young Bucks were in on the joke cheekiness. To me, I just was then like I get tired of Matt Jackson doing when the pyro goes off and all the theatrics for their entrance. Their robes are tailored like shit compared to Okada's, and I just get sick of their ring gear with the vest and the jogger suit pants. It's like, put a little bit more effort if you're really going to try to play into this EVP thing. Like, buy the expensive suits, wrestle in them. Like, take yourself seriously. Don't be, the fourth wall Deadpool type of Young Bucks that they were 5 6 years ago, when it made sense to do that. Like, be stern, be, a tyrant. Don't be like, haha, we're the bad guys. Get it? Like, they're leaning into that way too much for me to enjoy it as a farce and to enjoy it seriously. And the Okada part of it is, I was kind of let down by the Okada Eddie Kingston match. That was the one thing I wasn't able to say last week because there was no show. And I had said I don't expect Okada to take it easy like Shinsuke Nakamura did when he came to the States. Or I think they just didn't have chemistry more than anything. I think Eddie Kingston and him looked good on paper. But the first half of the match was very like, these guys are really trying to feel each other out. And it just didn't click at all. I know everyone's laughing that Okada is the Continental Crown Champion, but let's not forget the first title Cody Rhodes had coming back to the WWE was the tag team titles, which was like the last title he had when he was in the WWE. So if everyone's going to knock Okada for being in AEW and his first title was the Continental Crown Championship, this whole finish the story thing, he was the tag team champion along the way. So cool your fucking jets on that. All right. But I don't know. I get what they're trying to do. Okada, like I said, as a heel is a good creative decision for him to be more dickish as he was in the last year. New Japan, especially to that younger talent. But like I said, doing it with the Young Bucks just doesn't fit. But they're having a lot of problems with heels in AEW. I'll get to that when we do the Don Callis family conversation. But yeah, I just didn't enjoy this segment at all. And like I said, every time the Young Bucks come on the screen, I just like, oh god, they've taken over that that MJF role for me of like, I get it, you're the bad guy, but you're too comedic to be the bad guy, and then when you got to turn up to be serious, I don't take you seriously. It is what it is on that end. As I scroll to the next match, speaking of the Young Bucks, yeah, they faced Private Party, and I already said that I'm disappointed the way this tag team tournament was booked just based on the bracketing. I kind of wanted this to be purely that new blood or those tag teams that haven't held gold already. And I'll get to when I speak on Collision, but the way it's shaking out, it really should have been Private Party, Top Flight, and they were having a story going into this tournament of trading wins back and forth, and it would have been interesting to have their rubber match be for the World Tag Team titles, and you could have set another feud going forward with the team they beat along the way, the Young Bucks, FTR, etc. Of the futures now for the tag team division compared to what it's been. I'm tired of the retreads, meaning the Young Bucks, FTR, and for all this talk about the future in AEW Serious Day, you got to give these young guys a chance at some point. I know Top Flight, they've had the worst injury like a tag team can have, with Darius getting injured twice and then Dante getting injured. And now that they're back and healthy, you got to take advantage of that. It's the same thing with Private Party. I know Mark Quinn is shaking off that ring rust, but in the next month or so, he's going to be back to the Mark Quinn that we know. Because you could see it once Darius Martin came back. He was looking like Darius Martin, and Dante Martin's kind of getting back to that point where he looks the same prior to his injury. And the Young Bucks are just going to coast on doing the same. Like, this was a good match. I'm not taking away from the Young Bucks because that Falcon Arrow spot to the outside was great. They really tried to sell the drama of Private Party pulling off the upset like they did in the original tag team tournament. But I just knew this was designed for the Young Bucks to get their win back. Not in the FTR sense of get their win back, but the Private Party isn't going to beat the Young Bucks twice. But it would have made sense if they did, because that's a real story. I'm saying a real story point going forward. Like, if Private Party were to go on and win this tournament, of like, this is the only team to beat the Young Bucks twice like that. Only FTR's done that. And putting them in the same class as that, instead of nope, they show up, super kick, and Nicholas Jackson slips for his BTE trigger because his Jordans or whatever. That was a mess. But overall, at some point this year, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, or the Martins have to hold the tag team titles. These two teams have to be crowned eventually, because otherwise, what are we going to do? Look at the teams that we've had in the past as tag team champions. The Guns, SCU. I know that was the starting point. I mean, we all know the Lucha Bros should have been the first tag team champions when that tournament final took place. But still, Hangman Page and Kenny Omega was a makeshift tag team. Jurassic Express. Look at all the tag team champions we've had, and look at all the teams that we've missed out on. Again, Santana Ortiz never got that chance, and it looks like Santana is going to sign up Impact. And Ortiz took to Twitter last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, saying it's a shame that we never got the Lucha Bros Santana and Ortiz match in AEW like they had in Impact. And that's what I mean, this lost opportunity, because the egos of the Young Bucks or the egos of FTR to take this division and have it in a chokehold and just beat team after team. And that brief run that the Lucha Bros had was like, fuck, it sucked, because, and it's like in terms of its quality, just like that, it was so short lived just to give it to Jurassic Express and pay it off the way they did. Even so, again, Swerve in Our Glory was a makeshift tag team, and the Acclaim come out of nowhere, get red hot at the right time, and Tony Khan did the right thing and made a title change based off their reaction to the first tag team title match. And that's what I'm getting disappointed by, is a guy who seems to be smart doesn't make smart decisions. And I say seems to be smart based off, he thinks out of himself. I don't think Tony Khan's smart based off a number of booking decisions, and this whole tournament being one of them. All right. Oh yeah, there was that Mark Quinn hitting the 630 splash. That was impressive, because anyone who attempts a 630, they're a crazy motherfucker to try and do that. Just like last year, Canada month is probably for AEW. I don't know. It's tough to say, really. I mean, in terms of trying to clarify that. No offense, Sean. I'm not trying to skate by that, but just they do a lot of things. This run in Canada has been very up and down. There's the whole Jay White visa situation. The Adam Copelandness of it all is irritating. They really barely capitalize on Kyle O'Reilly, his return to wrestling after almost 2 years, and all of these matches taking place in Canada so far. A lot of the booking in the past couple weeks that haven't been Dynamite have been very disappointing, and I think that just shows, like I said, to the fact that certain talent is injured or certain talent is booked elsewhere. The Darby Allin Tony Hawk thing was cool to see again, as someone who grew up trying to be a skateboarder. My dad was a skater, so he tried to pass that on to me. I always just get a kick out of seeing Tony Hawk anywhere. But Darby Allin allowing Tony Hawk to use his foot brace as part of as a trick was interesting to see, but it was for a good cause. It was for this skate park charity that Tony Hawk has, where they build skate parks in places where they don't have them. That was cool to see Darby Allin kind of be this brand ambassador for AEW while his Mount Everest dream is on hold right now. So, and then we get into the Fatal 4-Way. I enjoyed this Fatal 4-Way. Kiki just did a show on All Elite with Keeks this past week talking about Anna Jay. Anna Jay is someone who has been in that middle tier of the AEW women's division. She's better than others, but not as good as the top. But she got some shine this match, especially towards the end, obviously, when it looked like she was going to, pull out this big win. She knocked Chris Statlander out to the shade outside, and then boom, Will surprised her with the gut wrench powerbomb. And Willow got the win, and it makes sense. Mercedes Moné was on commentary for this match, hyping up all four of these women. And it seems like Willow is the one to take this title off of Julia Hart, which we all need. I had said this a few weeks ago that Julia Hart was just an entrance. And that was it. The work she was doing in the ring wasn't matching to the power of her entrance. And that's how she got over. And that's why Tony Khan pulled the trigger on her the way when he did, because Statlander's run didn't need to really end like that. But Chris Statlander made her look like $1 million at Wrestle Dream, and then when she dropped it to her at Full Gear in that triple threat match with Sky Blue, you could see like, okay, Tony Khan again is like I just said with the Acclaimed, is listening to his audience. He's listening to who's over right now. Unfortunately, the Acclaim's worked match to what they were doing in the ring, and Julia Hart, I know she was battling that injury right as her title reign started, but still, you could see it in that tag team match last week with her and Sky Blue against Stat and Willow. She was the one who was the weakest link of that match. Sky Blue and Willow and Stat all had the big shine, the big spots, the crazy bumps, all of that. And Julia Hart just comes in at the end and, makes Stat tap out. And it's like, oh yeah, this is the champion. This is the woman who's holding this title. And Willow will take that title off of Julia Hart. It'll create the dissension between her and Statlander, and also set up Mercedes Moné to get a title off of Willow, like Willow took from Mercedes, because we all know Mercedes was set up to win that New Japan Women's New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Unfortunately, they had to call an audible at the last second. So they're setting up 2 to 3 stories in that aspect, maybe even 4 if you want to count the Julia Hart Sky Blue thing. And Sky Blue again has looked amazing. I thought almost that she should have been the woman to take this title for Julia Hart, even though I hate the "we're friends and then I turn on you" story that AEW constantly runs into the ground. But they're about to do that with Stat and Willow, and the Stokely Hathaway element is involved in that as well. Who will he side with? It looks like Stat, because Willow's been the one kind of pushing him away. And Mercedes and Willow will be another good match. I enjoyed the one that they had until the injury, which sucked to see, because you never like see matches end like that, where like, oh, this person's injured and that's why you gotta stop it to a halt and call it the way they did. But no, this is a good opportunity for all 4 of these women to get a big time look. And like I said, Mercedes Moné is probably gonna have matches with each one of them this year. And I'm just hoping Mercedes steps foot in the ring at some point in the next week or 2. You got to start wrestling. Again, if I'm going to get on Jay Cargill for not wrestling, I'm going to get on Mercedes Moné for not wrestling. If she's cleared to wrestle, then you got to get in there and wrestle. You've already built up the aura of big business. You announced yourself that you're back, but you got to start showing that you're there to wrestle. And whether that's against Anna Jay, just a quick tune-up to show that you're good to go. And then you're going to call out the winner of Julia Hart, Willow Nightingale. That's how wrestling should work, and treat it like the sport aspect of I'm winning matches and I'm going to call out the champion. She can't just show up and do again, I know she's the CEO, but she can't just do my first match is going to be for the title right away. She was doing that in New Japan, but I want to see it work out, especially with the way that Tony Khan talks about all these rankings. Which don't mean shit at the end of the day, but still. All right, now I move on to the next one. Yeah, the Tony Storm thing. Someone I follow, John LaRocca, had a good thing where like the Tony Storm skit with Ben Minkiewicz just seemed like a waste. And Tony Storm's been my favorite character in wrestling this last year. What she was doing prior to this was all working for me, but that Ben Minkiewicz thing just seemed like a waste of his time and her time. Like they could have really played it up more of him being this film historian, and he could have asked her about the Hollywood's great actresses and her comparison, or they could have watched a movie together or something and done more than just have him stand by her and have him say her lines, which that was the only funny part when he said, I'm not going to say that, when she said tits out. He's like, what does that mean when she said watch for the shoe? But otherwise, it was just kind of nothing. They have to utilize their celebrities better. And that was one opportunity, even though no offense to Ben Minkiewicz, he's not that big of a celebrity, but he's a legend in terms of Hollywood being who he's related to. But still, use your outside of wrestling talent a lot better than this. And then we got Orange Cassidy and Trent, aka the Best Friends, versus the Undisputed Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. This was so. Again, if you're not watching All Elite with Keeks, it's on Mondays, every Monday. Public Enemy Podcast, his YouTube channel, podcast feed. She's been teasing, she's been saying, watch for this Trent Orange Cassidy breakup at some point, because they've been teasing Trent's. I don't even know really what to say. Not jealousy, but he's kind of seems standoffish or more cold to Orange Cassidy as of late. And if that happens, once again, as I spoke to earlier about missed opportunities, the fact that Best Friends have never been World Tag Team Champions or Trios Champions. Look at what the Trios Champions have done as of late, being the Acclaimed. They haven't done a fucking thing. Just like House of Black wasn't doing anything. And Best Friends should have won the titles once the Elite got suspended for Brawl Out. I'm glad they put them on Death Triangle, just in terms of those guys got some gold for all the hard work they do by constantly putting people over. But it was just designed to give them back to the Elite And that's why it was so weird when they won that first match and then decide after that it's a best of 7 series. Again, that's that ass backwards booking of we book now and then realize we got to course correct because it would be better this way. And if the case is that Orange Cassidy and Trent break up before the best friends as a trio gets a whole gold, again, there was the opportunity when Orange Cassidy was international champion and Statlander was TBS champion that they could have had Trent and Chuck win the World Tag Titles and then done the Evolution, the Herb Business, where you have all the gold as a faction, the Undisputed Era. I love seeing that when a faction has all the gold. I think Chuck's injury happened right after the All Out loss that Orange Cassidy had against John Moxley, so maybe that's. But it could have been built up prior. Again, the FTR stranglehold on the tag team division last year was abysmal. I know they had that good match against Aussie Open, but what other good matches did they have? The Young Bucks match at All In was fine. Again, but there was too much emotion behind it for me to actually care because the whole thing of that match was who's going to win, who's going to get the deciding fall in this match, based on the Young Bucks winning the first one and FTR winning the second, and this being the biggest crowd in wrestling history. One team was going to have their ego boosted by walking out as tag champs, known as FTR. That's why we're in this position we are now, as I broke down a few weeks ago, where the Young Bucks get the number one contendership and FTR drops the titles to Ricky Starks and Big Bill, which I'll get to later in a funny twist of fate. But yeah, I mean, I like Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, even though the Undisputed Kingdom are useless. This faction hasn't done anything powerful. Like I said, they're already turning on Wardlow to the point where like Adam Cole is now once again an MJF figure to Wardlow, where he's controlling him, berating him, calling him a loser. He doesn't even help Roddy Strong or the King or Matt Taven and Mike Bennett win matches like he was doing before with the Pinnacle or with MJF. So again, he's not been on TV the last 2 weeks. And again, maybe this is because he's with Adam Cole and his broken foot playing video games, as Adam Cole was just playing video games with Kenny Omega and Riho. It's not, Wardlow deserves better, but Wardlow was given opportunities, and then Tony Khan didn't know what to do with him after he gave him those opportunities. Like, he's a 3-time TNT champion because they wanted to take that away from Cody and Sammy. And it's like, what happened in those title reigns? He was champion and then drops the title right after. Wins it back, drops it right after. Wins it back, drops it right after. He had no memorable run in all those title reigns. It was a hot potato title, and that's kind of why it's in the shape it's in with the Cope Open, as I'll get to, where he's going to try to boost that prestige back up. But like I said, Undisputed Kingdom is not Undisputed Era. It's far from it. It just shares the name and that whole like type of, that distorted static type of sound at the start. But they don't kick ass. They don't win matches. They're the ROH tag team champions, and they don't defend those titles, as I talked about in the first episode of Davis featuring Drip, where look at who holds ROH gold and who's on AEW TV. And the only one who defends their title on ROH is Athena, and that's why she's, the face of that company or that promotion side of AEW. But yeah, who the fuck are Matt Taven and Mike Bennett going to face next Friday at Supercard of Honor? Because they've been fixated on Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta, that the ROH titles are secondary at this point to them. And that's what I hate about this whole Bullet Club Gold thing, where they're the Trios champions now calling out the Acclaim for their Trios titles. I'm getting ahead of myself, but still, this is what I get mad at. Like, if you want to put talent on ROH and give them gold, then you actually have to put them on ROH. There's no point to just give AEW talent ROH gold and have them carry it around just to make them seem important, because it does the exact opposite. They don't seem important. They just, these titles now seem meaningless because they're not defended on their home turf, and the guys that hold them lose matches. Again, like, what's it gonna say when Mike Bennett and Matt Taven have a title defense if they can't even beat Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta. Shouldn't they be ROH Tag Team Champions at this point? When people get mad at me bringing up shit like this, it's just wrestling, blah, blah, blah. No, you have to respect booking to then respect me trying to watch your show. Like, it's not that my time's too valuable or it's just wrestling. It's no. Things have to make sense in wrestling if you want to treat it as a sport, like Tony Khan says. Otherwise, do what the WWE does, and you can be a champion, and there is no 30-day defense clause, which was the whole point of Becky Lynch's promo against Rhea Ripley. Seth Rollins against fucking Roman Reigns, but the irony is that Seth Rollins hasn't defended his title in 30 days. Logan Paul as U.S. champion. The only one who would defend their title kind of in a consistent span is Gunther, but even I think he has 30-day breaks in between certain matches. He'll just defend his title more than everyone else. But otherwise, but yeah, Orange Cassidy and Trent advance to then they'll go on to face the Young Bucks on kind of the semifinals side of that West. They're calling it the West bracket, which is, the amount of March Madness puns that they were trying to use for this tag team tournament bracket when it was just 10 teams pissed me off. Like they could have used this tag team tournament. They could have gone I don't want to say all out, but all out with it. And had 20 teams. They could have treated it like the Crockett Cup back in the day, where you have a whole field and it takes 2 months to get a winner. Like the winner should have been crowned at Double or Nothing, not at Dynasty, because they don't know what else to do. Because, like here's the thing I wasn't able to say last time. Trying to do more pay-per-views is a mistake for AEW. Here's why it's a mistake. Like I said, the TV ratings debate, that's going to go up and down no matter what. The attendance thing, that's the real issue. As much as I hate Eric Bischoff, and he can't talk too much shit about Tony Khan, given that Eric Bischoff sunk 2 companies. Tony Khan's on the verge of potentially seeking 1. But when Eric Bischoff is like, you can't sell out 7,000 seats, blah, 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 that's a bad sign. But what killed WCW back in the day was they focused on TV ratings more than pay-per-view buy rates. And pay-per-views were afterthought because it all mattered about beating Monday Night Raw, beating WWF on Monday nights, getting that rating. And as they continue to lose in those ratings, the pay-per-views didn't matter anymore. Granted, they continued to do well TV-wise by today's standards, but the pay-per-views weren't able to draw shit. It was the same thing once they got to TNA, where TNA buy rates were great until Hogan and Bischoff got there, and then they dropped dramatically month by month over the course of the Bischoff-Hogan tenure because they cared about TV. And now Tony Khan's doing the reverse. He's caring about pay-per-view because they constantly sell out, because they make it a big deal. People will fly to where their pay-per-views are. They'll build bigger matches. There's no time constraint, and they can go 3 to 4 hours with his super booked matches, and their buy rates do well because he forces people to pay. If you want to see the best matches, you're going to be forced to pay. If you want to be in the best environment, you're going to be forced to pay the big prices. And his mindset is, if I add more pay-per-views, that's going to overcompensate, I should say, my lack of TV success. And that's not smart, because then you're going to do what the WWE was doing, which is fuck TV. It's all about the pay-per-views. But even then, like, the pay-per-views won't matter because the TV hasn't mattered. And that's what I'm scared of for AEW, is that these matches in between to set the stories for the pay-per-views, I shouldn't care about them because I'll treat it like I did for WWE in the 2017, 2018 era. I'll just watch the pay-per-views because the TV isn't mattering. I'm just going to see the matches I want to see on pay-per-view instead, because you haven't done a good job of focusing on TV. And I'll get to that on Rampage and Collision. Because like I said, this was a good Dynamite, even though I didn't think that Matt Taven, like, even that Kingdom Best Friends match was nothing special. These are 2 solid tag teams. All 4 of these guys are solid workers. And then the main event, Swerve Strickland versus Takeshita. Everyone knows my feelings about Swerve, but I can admit this man can go in the ring. I don't like him personally. I don't like the character, this and all that. But he also had a little bit of that Shawn Michaels, 96, 97 in him, where he was really showing out like even 95, I should say, when he was showing up Diesel at WrestleMania 11, he was showing his athletic ability a lot more in this match against Takeshita. And I don't know if he was really just trying to make himself look better than Takeshita and why he's the guy who's going to be the next AEW champion, or if he was just, if it was the story of the match that he knows Takeshita is going to be the, the hard hitter, the guy with more strength. So he's going to have to rely on that kill shot, that, the original Shane Strickland style of using the ropes. He had a spiral tap, the way he was bouncing over the top rope and, in between them. But he still used his power spots that he had built up over the last year as he was putting on that weight. Again, the irony of him calling Hangman Page fat at the start of their feud was like, brother, look in the mirror, because you could say you're putting on weight and people don't know shit, but you looked just as fat as Hangman Page supposedly did. And then Hangman Page looked better once he came back from that after the Last Man Standing match they had. I mean, the Texas Death match that they had. But him and Takeshita had a great match, great main event, and Takeshita continues to show why he is someone who should be a champion in AEW, whether it'll be international champion or Continental Crown champion. Him versus Okada, I think, is a better, even though they're both heels right now. But like I said, we got to get someone in AEW who knows how to book heels, because Don Callis just saying why his talent are superior to others is not enough for them to be heels. What he was doing with Kenny Omega worked because Kenny Omega still kind of cheated to win, or was willing to play the bad guy, even though Kenny Omega is a bad guy, never worked for me. That whole run the belt collector, I really hated that run, mainly because Kenny Omega was put together by duct tape and fucking. It was miserable to see him go at 70% of what he was, which is why last year's run was so amazing when he came back fully healthy and rested up just to get injured again. But Don Callis just does a bad job of putting his talent over as why they're superior and why they're evil and why they're villains. He does a good job of making himself seem evil, but he's not able to transfer that to Takeshita. Hobbs a little bit, but I think, because I know personally, I like rooting for Hobbs, not just because of the Bay Area connection, but he's strong as fuck. He's athletic. His personal story, it'd be hard to root against that guy. Those vignettes were good when they took him back to the Bay, and those screen doors that I had at my apartment complex were, is what he would cut promos in front of. And the Book of Hobbs thing, the Book of Hobbs was very like, what's this supposed to be? There's potential in it. But the Don Callis family just doesn't work. Again, the addition of Sammy Guevara and just to cut him loose was a disaster. And they already are setting up Will Hobbs versus Will Ospreay next week. The Battle of Wills is that it's being built as. And I already said from the jump that Will Ospreay was going to be betrayed by Don Callis, and Kyle Fletcher would side with Don Callis, like Anakin sided with Emperor Palpatine, because Kyle Fletcher wants to be better than Will Ospreay, and he's already kind of mimicking him with filling out a little bit more. His ring gear, the blonde hair now, and Kyle Fletcher just lost Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay already beat Takeshita, so now Will Ospreay is going to beat Will Hobbs, and it'll be kind of a sports story in a way of where like this guy's better than the team and he's proven it in practice. But it's like you don't start the story knowing where your endpoint is and building towards the endpoint. Because like Will Ospreay should show up to AEW and not want to face the guys he's supposedly teammates with. He should face, even though I like that they're giving Will Ospreay new talent for him to face, and it was the same thing with Okada and Eddie Kingston. I'm glad that Okada's not having to run back these matches right away, because the whole point of Ospreay, Okada, Jay White last year is don't run these guys into the feuds they've previously had because of AEW being what New Japan USA was going to be prior to AEW being founded. So when those matches happen, plus we just saw Ospreay, Okada at Battle in the Valley, we don't need them to run it back. But Ospreay should be like, why am I facing guys I'm supposedly teammates with? That, you know, this doesn't make sense. I know it's his idea. He's the measuring stick. He is the proving ground. He is showing why he is the best wrestler in the world, and it'll be against this person, that person. It doesn't matter who it is that he's going to face. He'll show why he's superior than them. But if this is just going to come down to Don Callis betraying Will Ospreay and all these guys kicking him out the group, it's like that. Then you told a flawed story. And it would maybe make sense if Don Callis just says, fuck these guys, I'm sticking with Ospreay because all these guys can't measure up, and now these 3 guys feel spurned. But again, what are they going to do? Because these guys can't talk without Don Callis. Hobbs more than Fletcher and Takeshita, but still. But otherwise, yeah, Strickland and Takeshita would have been, if Ospreay Shibata wasn't happening, that probably would have been the match of the night. But they did a good job of, you know, having a great endpoint and start point and end point of Dynamite, and that's why talking about Rampage is going to be a headache, because it starts with Dustin Rhodes versus the Butcher, and I'm like, I respect Dustin Rhodes for competing at this age. He competes at this age better than John Cena has. He's competed at this age better than Chris Jericho has. But I'm not seeing Dustin Rhodes wrestle. I don't watch Rampage live once this match was announced. I'm like, I don't need to waste an hour of my time on Friday night. And I like the Butcher. I like the Butcher a lot. And the Butcher and the Blade's another one of those tag teams that would have benefited from being in this tag team tournament. I think the Blade might be injured, and I think there's also those contract talks, given how the Bunny chose not to re-up with AEW. So if the Butcher goes about alone, I'd like to see that, because he's someone who will be a great heel to loot for guys to beat, because he's intimidating looks wise and ring wise. He actually seems like a credible threat compared to other wrestlers. Like when Kip Sabian gets in the ring, no offense to Kip Sabian, but because he's linked with the Butcher and the Blade, you just know Kip Sabian's not going to get the win, or won't look as impressive as who he's facing. But now, like I just said, the Butcher doesn't look impressive because he just lost to a 50-year-old man, 50-something-year-old man. And yes, I get it. You want to send Dustin Rhodes out on this last run, but wasn't the last ride supposed to be last year or in the year before that? Why is he sticking around? It's I've said it before already. These roads, their egos are just too high for no damn reason. Again, Dusty Rhodes had the biggest ego because of how he looked, how he talked, but he had the personality to eclipse his shortcomings, looks wise, and all that. And then Cody Rhodes, again, he was supposed to be the chosen one of the family, because even though it was really Dustin, because he was 6'4", better looking than what Dusty Rhodes would look like if he was good looking, solid in the ring, and just they made him a character once he got to the big time, and he got stuck in that mindset, just being a character. Because again, when he was, it wasn't Black. Was he Black Rain in TNA? Fuck, I can't remember his name. When he teamed with Relic, that was a weird era, because I had no idea that was Dustin Rhodes at that time, or Goldust, I should say, because I wasn't really knowing guys' real names at that point. But he was Goldust, but just silver and black instead of black and gold. And seeing him wrestle now, it's, again, he was brought to the company to give Cody Rhodes the brother versus brother match that he so often desired, because WWE did it as Stardust and Goldust, and no one gave a fuck. And no one gave a fuck because it happened at Fastlane instead of WrestleMania, and then they put Cody Rhodes, Stardust in the IC title match. And this is months before Dusty passes, so I know why these guys have the chips on their shoulders that they do. Again, I understood where Cody Rhodes was coming from when he said Dusty's kids about the NXT group versus him and Dustin, and the way they were treated. But at that point, you had almost 7 years in the company. You'd been tag team champion, IC champion, multiple gimmicks. Like, they tried a few. Nothing was sticking, even though you did your best to make it work. it just never caught on. And then your brother played the same character. He played Goldust, and people knew like Goldust is there to lose. You know, when the Rhodes Dynasty took the belts off the Shield, as Cody Rhodes reminded us, it's like, yeah, okay. And you know what's talked about more often than not? The Shield and the Wyatt family match. After that, when the Rhodes Dynasty had, I think they had already lost the tag team titles at that point. To the I would have been the New Age Outlaws, which was, God, that was a weird time. 2014, 13, when I was in and out after having moved here from Minnesota. I mean, moving to Minnesota from California was just a weird period. But that Rhodes Dynasty thing was like, I think I was not watching live when it happened. But yeah, I don't want to see Dustin Rhodes. Find one way to give him a proper final send off, and then keep him in the back as the trainer, consultant that he is, because he still has a good mind and the talent like working with him. But I just don't want to see him on TV because this match was slow. This match was plotting, and the Butcher tried to do a good job of like working the arm and making it seem like this was a match that was supposed to have psychology, but it was just a waste of time. All right. I just watched Rampage this morning. I forgot what was next. I just wanted to make sure it was the Deonna Purrazzo match. Deonna Purrazzo beat up Rose, and this was just to make Deonna Purrazzo look strong as she builds herself back up from the timeless Toni Storm loss. And that kind of segues into the Mariah May match against Nikita. And that match had a little bit more back and forth to it, but it was really more about Mariah May showing out the stuff she's learning, more so taking from Toni Storm, because she is the kind of rock star Toni Storm era. And they announced Thunder Rosa versus Mariah May after that match, and that the winner of Mariah May versus Thunder Rosa will get the title shot against Toni Storm. I'm like, shouldn't it really be Deonna Purrazzo and Mariah May, and then the winner of that faces Thunder Rosa to get the title shot? Because I get you don't want to have Deonna Purrazzo take another loss, but Mariah May has to look believable to then lose to Thunder Rosa to make Thunder Rosa look stronger heading into the Toni Storm match, because people got to understand, like, you have to lose in wrestling. You can build yourself back up with wins, but you need impactful wins to matter, and someone like Mariah May needs an impactful win, and beating Deonna Purrazzo would, like, oh, I just beat the woman my mentor beat. Now I'm going to face the woman who's trying to go after her title. And if I can beat her, then I'll get the title shot. And if Thunder Rosa beats Mariah May, it's like, now there's no doubt that she's the true contender, because she just beat the woman who was deemed, who was looking like she was going to be the title contender. It's all, I'm saying the same shit over and over, but this isn't UFC and boxing where if a contender loses right before they get the title shot, they have to start all over again. Someone in wrestling can win a title, can lose a title match, and then kind of get 2-3 wins back, and then seem like a title contender if they're the right people they're facing, not local talent, not the jobbers on the roster, actual people. That's the whole point of the rankings. If you wanted Deonna Purrazzo to look impressive, have her beat the actual people on the rankings. Then that's why the rankings are supposed to be there. Not she's building up her spot in the rankings because she's beating the likes of Rose or whoever else. It's no, put actual time and care to where people are placed. Like Deonna Purrazzo should have beat Anna Jay, or should have, again, call up Layla Hirsch back. I know all these women are in Ring of Honor doing work to build up that women's television title, but call Diamante, call Mercedes Martinez, like credible threats. And again, you have to give those women wins so it seems believable. I just hate the point where, as much as WWE will kind of take cop-outs, Kevin Owens just lost to Pretty Deadly. Again, you can use smoke and mirror shenanigans like Logan Paul hitting him with the brass next to cost him match. But Kevin Owens still took an L, you know? Like, you can book your way around people looking strong and then getting fucked over at the end. You don't have to. What my issue was with the Infantry versus House of Black was the Infantry got fucking their ass kicked from start to finish in that match, and then get the win at the end And I said, how are they going to look like a credible threat against FTR then? Because that's going to undo House of Black looking like a credible threat once FTR and the Infantry have a back and forth match, because FTR is the measuring stick and wants to give everyone their best goddamn matches because that's who we are, damn it. But Mariah May should beat Deonna Purrazzo to then go on to face Thunder Rosa. But I enjoyed the segment afterwards in which this match was announced, the Thunder Rosa Mariah May match, because Toni Storm showing love and affection to Mariah May after being so cold and standoffish at the beginning. It's amazing to see her be like, yes, darling, you. I think she's like, you magnificent bastard, and kissed her. Like, I see what you're doing. I see what you're planning, and I love it. It was a way better timeless Toni Storm segment compared to the Ben Mankiewicz one, and that's the thing where I'm like, see, you're smart at doing this, then why waste your time doing the nonsense? And then the Rampage main event, Matt Menard, Roddy Strong. This went on far too long. Oh my god. And Matt Menard, like I said, in his British Bulldog jeans, not looking like a credible threat to Roddy Strong at all, and Roddy Strong just almost costing himself the match is how it was booked, because again, Matt Menard's not that good of a wrestler, and Roddy Strong as international champion, like, this is his first real test as international champion. It's fucking Matt Menard. Like, come, do better. It just pissed me off that this match went 12 minutes. Again, as great as Dynamite started and ended with those two single matches, Rampage started horrible and ended horrible with these two dragged out fucking watching the paint dry matches between Dustin Rhodes, The Butcher, and Roddy Strong, Matt Menard. I hope they don't rush the Kyle O'Reilly thing like they're trying, because I had already said this on the last episode, is that it maybe makes sense that Dan Garcia gets the title shot against Roddy Strong, but like I said, then Dan Garcia has to lose to Roddy Strong because we know that the Kyle O'Reilly things really is what they're building to, and Dan Garcia doesn't need to take another title loss, because then he'll never look like a credible title challenger after losing 2 in a row. So I don't know. I know they just gave this to Matt Menard because the home nation thing of Canada, Montreal, Quebec, all that bullshit. But that's when I get mad at wrestling, when they want to do the like, if you give him a hometown match, give him a hometown win. Don't give him the hometown title contending loss. This wasn't a championship match. This was the championship contending match. He would have got a title shot had he won this match. And they said he didn't want the title shot. He wanted the opportunity to earn the title shot. That's, I'm like, now he looks like a bigger idiot because he could have had home field advantage in this being a title match. It's just infuriating. I know this is nitpicky, but that's the whole point of my show. People want to be, this is so great. This is so awesome. Oh, how great for him to get the match in his hometown. It was a boring match. It fucking sucked. And Roddy Strong is just coasting and making himself look like an idiot because he can't beat this guy in short work. Like, how the fuck can Roddy Strong not beat Matt Menard in less than 7 minutes? Come on. Matt Menard's on commentary every episode of Rampage. What the fuck? Oh, God. Yeah. Anyway, I think I had skipped over the Angelo Parker, Zach Knight thing, and I didn't want to address it, but like I said, this story doesn't need to go on. It's Zach Knight and Angelo Parker. They're not going to amount to fucking anything. They're building up a feud that's going to have little to no payoff. What crowd is going to pop for this? All their segments happen backstage. None of this happens in the ring. None of this has happened since the Ruby Soho Soraya fought. All these segments happen backstage for the crowd to react to what they're seeing, but none of it happens in the ring for us to care. It's a fucking soap opera story. And again, Angelo Parker and Zach Knight aren't going to have a good match. So why should I care about it? Why should this be a big deal every fucking week? There's talent that isn't being utilized properly or being booked properly to get the amount of airtime that this story has been getting. And that's what pisses me off about it. Ruby Soho could be having singles matches and building this back up. Or Zach Knight could be having singles matches and showing why he's someone who should be feared, or why Angelo Parker is, again, It doesn't make sense. It's just fucking. That's what I get tired of saying. Again, this is Booker of the Year, who everyone likes to reap praise on because he's the one who has the fucking mind to book Shibata and Ospreay. Like, no fucking shit. You see who you have on the roster, like that's who is capable of having a great match. But then when it comes to the storytelling aspect, he's like, should I spend time on wrestlers who won't deliver a fucking thing? Not in the ratings, not in attendance, not in fucking match quality. All right, then we get into Collision. The Cope Open. Last time I said Adam Copeland's Cope Open was just a poor man's John Cena US Open Challenge. Well, last night proved it because now he has the title to defend in this Open Challenge. And it was Matt Cardona, formerly Zack Ryder, and Edgehead. And this match was slow. It was almost a WWE style match, just in terms of the amount of space between each move and each spot. And the storytelling was just, he was this guy's mentor. I'm like, he was his mentor for 9 months, if that. Again, the sentimental side of it is it's great that Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona gets to have this match of Edge, Adam Copeland. I respect that. But as a quality of work, it was not good. It was not enjoyable. Yeah, it was a genuine surprise seeing Matt Cardona come out there, and Matt Cardona on the indies, and in TNA, even though I haven't been watching much. I respect he's committed to the grind, because I think we all kind of know he'd rather be back in WWE, because he doesn't want to be in AEW, obviously, when he showed up for that one off with Cody and was never brought back. I think he was maybe one of those people that didn't want to have this stink of being in AEW too long for them to be brought back, but they brought back Shawn Spears, but that's them picking Shawn Spears over Matt Cardona makes a lot of sense in terms of who they favor and who they don't. Being Shawn Spears is a purely system guy, and Matt Cardona kind of has a little bit of that, like he's desperate to be a WWE superstar again. But he committed to the GCW stuff. I'll give him all the credit for that. For a guy who didn't do death matches, getting his ass kicked by Nick Gage like he did, and really owning the I'm better than this promotion mindset of being the GCW Internet Champion, the spinner belt, the dressing like Vince McMahon with the do-rag and MMA gloves and all black gear. I respect that run when he first got out there, but after that, my attention to what he was doing on that scene I haven't paid any. So, but yeah, I mean, he's always just been less than Cody in terms of like that solid WWE work rate of like, this guy's a good worker. In terms of he does the basics really well. He can do a few big things that are impressive, but it's never to the, he never turns it to 11. But famously, he did have that US Open Challenge against John Cena in Long Island in 2015. And he hit a 450 in that match. And I remember being like, what the fuck is Zack Ryder hitting a 450 for? And this match was not even close to the energy of that match or the match quality too, as I've been saying. And this just feeds into my Edge Adam Copeland point of this guy came back to get the wins he wanted to get, the wins that were robbed of him. And that goes back into his ego, of his career being taken away from him. And I'm glad AEW is going to get away from Canada after this run, because I'm tired of this fucking Canada bullshit that they're doing with Adam Copeland and the media he's doing and all that. I know he was talking about the Judgment Day. I didn't see that. I avoided clicking on that clip because I don't want to see what he originally planned for the Judgment Day, because I'm like, it was going to benefit him more than the people who are benefiting from it now, meaning Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. Finn Balor's there just to do something. But Rhea Ripley's the star of the Judgment Day, and Damian Priest is the second star. Dom too, but he's talking the Rhea Ripley thing. But yeah, this match, it stinked. I really can't even speak too much of the actual match quality. But then at the end, Malachi Black shows up and seems like he's the one to challenge Adam Copeland, and I'm like, no, because then he's gonna have to lose. And House of Black have already taken too many L's. And again, this is a thing of like Adam Copeland, who haven't I worked with? I've always wanted to work with Aleister Black, Malachi Black. I feel like we'd have a good match. And he's gonna mess with his head and the mind games, and Adam Copeland's gonna have to go to that fucking brood mindset and turn into the devil vampire character that he is or was at times. It's just gonna be fucking dreadful. As soon as he showed up, I'm like, no, this is the last thing the fucking House of Black need is to feud with fucking Adam Copeland. And it was weird because again, like Mark Briscoe had to come out to the table. I'm like, they're feuding with this guy, and he's just gonna link up with Adam Copeland. And the Eddie Kingston element of like Eddie Kingston came down because he respects Mark Briscoe and doesn't want Mark Briscoe getting hurt prior to their match. So it's announced that the House of Black are facing Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe. And I'm like, that's what I mean. Like, this is how bad the new AEW pay-per-view philosophy is. We get this match on pay-per-view instead of a fucking TNT title match. And it would have been, again, I wouldn't have wanted to see a rushed Malachi Black, Adam Copeland match for the TNT title on pay-per-view, but still, don't give me this 6-man bullshit. Don't give me that. Because is Mark Briscoe going to be walking in this match the new ROH champion? Am I going to have to care about that when Eddie Kingston hasn't been on ROH defending that title anyway? All the elements of it are they're melting stories that weren't even meant to be connected. Melted together. Like that's not what this is. This isn't that type of story where you can connect these dots. Malachi Black versus Adam Copeland on his own made sense, but once they finished with Mark Briscoe, but they had finished with him when they won their street fight. That's why Mark Briscoe cost them the match against the Infantry. Didn't make any sense because, like, why prolong this? And he won't have any help because FTR just used him. Used Daniel Garcia to end their feud with the House of Black. Shouldn't they have his fucking back? But no, it had to be Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Like, what's going on? But again, House of Black, I'd be surprised if they won that match at Dynasty. I'm going to say that right here, right now. The FTR promo was bad. So the Acclaim come out, and I skipped over the Jay White home invasion thing because why the hell are we doing another home invasion angle? Especially when it's a poor version of what Swerve did. Again, I don't want to give Swerve credit, but the whole point of the Swerve home invasion angle was the baby's room aspect. Jay White showing up to Billy Gunn's house just to not even really fuck up with his shit. He knocked stuff down and made Jay White seem like a loser. And that's the first time I'm saying that since he's been in AEW. And I hate saying that, being that Jay White's one of top 3 favorite wrestlers right now. So the Acclaim come out and Billy Gunn gets to say he sold out Madison Square Garden more than Jay White ever did. I'm like, technically yes, but he was never on the top of those cards. So don't give me that DX bullshit. You knew your role in that, Billy Gunn, because when they try to make you the single star with Mr. Ass and the One, it never caught on. Okay, so you can't hold a candle to what Jay White was doing as the man who's bragging about being the catalyst in pro wrestling. And then Max Caster cut one of the worst promos ever, and his skills on the mic have been fading. I thought him fucking up on the raps was part of the character, part of the dissension between him and the Bullet Club Gold, the Bang Bang Scissor Gang, was that he was losing his ability to rap as this group continue to go on. But maybe, and I know he's pissing everyone off on Twitter again. His tweets have been horrendous and stupid as fuck. I don't agree with what he's been saying on there. But yeah, he just says a whole bunch of nonsense. And this was like the promo they cut last time to open up Rampage when they had to clear all the fucking confetti out of the ring. And Anthony Bowens, since he's so great at going from 0 to 60 and being intense and having heart behind his promos, again, a lot of it's just nothing. Like, you guys are the Trios champions and not defending your titles. And you're mad that these guys turned on you, but you should have seen this come. Like, you had feuded with the Guns because they betrayed you. Like, and then now you teamed up with them again, knowing like maybe we shouldn't team up with the guys who betrayed us. Like, oh God, it's just flawed storytelling. And we're getting this Billy Gunn, daddy ass Jay White match because he wants it, and it's going to serve no purpose for Jay White to beat a 50-year-old man. Like, Jay White needs to be on a better course than the one he's on. Again, the Bang Bang Gang taking the trios titles and having both of them, the ROH and the AEW ones, that's not a good look. It's more gold for them to carry and not defend. It defeats the purpose of it. And this is like when they were trying to make Swerve look impressive and he had to do the same thing against Billy Gunn. I'm like, no, you're doing the opposite. You make this guy look like a loser because he's facing this 50-year-old guy who can only do his 5 moves, and that's because he's too fucking jacked to do too jacked and too old to do anything else. Jay White deserves better. I don't know if they need to add someone else to the Bullet Club Gold since Juice has been injured. I kind of think they do. I don't know who though at this point, because if the roster is looking like the way it is because people are injured or people are off doing other things, then Jay White just might have to go solo. My whole thing is he really doesn't even need the guns anyway. But yeah, that pissed me off to see that, because the home invasion thing was just like, just because Colton and Austin had access to the house, they didn't even do some bad shit because it's Billy Gunn's actual house. It's like, at least rent a fake house and do some shit, or like rent a fake car and have him use the bat to beat that shit up. Like, come on, like it just made, and then they run when Billy Gunn shows up. It's like, it's 3 of y'all against him. Like, kick his ass. I got mad when they did the LA Knight AJ Styles home invasion thing, because the way the cops interacted with them more is what was pissing me off. Like, these are not believable cops at all. But yeah, it was infuriating to see that happen, and the Acclaim being a lesser version of what they were 2 years ago is really hard to see when they had all the momentum on their side. Well, almost 2 years ago. It's just like disappointing to see them not move the crowd until it's the scissor meet. It's like nothing what they say sticks, both of them. Like I said, Anthony Bowens is good at getting them hyped up, but like what he's saying besides that is just like, show me, like go in the ring and show me you haven't been doing that. FTR versus the Infantry, like I said last time and earlier on the show, FTR was going to get their chance to show these guys after they had the interaction on the mic a few weeks ago, and the Infantry were the Cinderella story of the bracket, even though they weren't, because they just lost to FTR this match. The Infantry looked good at moments. FTR really seemed on cruise control. As I said, that Swerve looked like he was showing out more against Takeshita. FTR really looked like they were just trying to take it easy in this match. And they get the win and move on to face the next topic, which is Ricky Starks and Big Bill versus Top Flight. And this match, again, just was weird at the start. Ricky Starks and Big Bill haven't been on TV since they lost those titles to Sting and Darby Allin. And at some point in the match, Ricky Starks is, looking like, oh, I'm hurt. And there's a bad pinfall spot where he doesn't kick out and the ref says he kicks out. And then Dante and Darius do a tag team maneuver, and then they pin Ricky Starks right after that, just seconds after this botched pinfall kick out. And it's like, oh, Ricky Starks might seriously be injured. And I'm like, oh, fuck. That's not what you see, given the whole Ricky Starks thing of being in the doghouse for what he says on Twitter, on Twitter, being very pro Cody Rhodes and feeling like he's the outcast, the black sheep of the AEW roster, because he's one of those Cody guys and not favored by everyone else. But then on his Instagram story last night, he said, I just got checked. I'm all cleared. But I was being cautious because but he was just being cautious because he didn't want to continue the match if he was seriously injured. A conspiracy theory would be they're supposed to win this match, obviously. Big Bill and Ricky Starks. And like I said, lose, give their win back to FTR. And maybe he didn't want to do that. I don't want to say Ricky Starks is playing that kind of game. That's how it would look based on FTR saying they were injured dropping the titles to Ricky Starks and Big Bill on the when they were going to face the Young Bucks at Full Gear, and then FTR wrestled 2 weeks after dropping those titles when Cash Wheeler was supposedly injured. So I don't even want to say good for Top Flight, because now they get the FTR match, and it's like, oh, they're gonna have to take off all the FTR. And as I already said, the last episode is that FTR, known for ducking black tag teams, has now beaten the Infantry, and then now they'll probably go on to beat Top Flight next week. So it's crazy how that works. But like I said, Big Bill, Ricky Starks, I don't know what to do with them going forward. They were already a bad match in terms of a tag team, just because there was nothing about them that seemed to click. Their whole story was they were two guys who feel like they should got more opportunities than they did, and they're right. But yeah, I don't want to see them keep going as a tag team after that. I want to see Ricky Starks be a single star. I want to see Big Bill be a single star, because I think they're capable of standing out on their own than they are standing together. And yeah, and that's something this tag team tournament it's just working against them with the way the FTR match played out, with it being nothing special. Like I said, there were spots where the Infantry really showed how good they can be, but nothing really special to stand out going forward. I hope they get more opportunities, obviously. Captain Sean Dean and Carly Bravo, they should be a team that's on TV more to face the likes of Private Party, Blackpool Combat Club, this and all that. Because as I said before, Blackpool Combat Club not being in this didn't make any sense, because they had beaten FTR, and granted, it was known that they would be committed to the CMLL stuff, and it shouldn't be looked as a step down, because if that's kind of that new blood is what I'm talking about in terms of the tag division. Claudio and Mox would be great for the tag division, because whoever would take the titles off them eventually would look great. But those were two matches that were just very meddling. I had skipped over the Kyle O'Reilly, JD Drake. This was one of the only high things I was excited about over the course of Collision, because it was a very dog shit episode of Collision. And like I said, I enjoy seeing Kyle O'Reilly back, even though he's getting his bearings back together. Him and JD Drake had a solid competitive back and forth match, but it was just made for Kyle O'Reilly to get the easy win. And yeah, JD Drake again is one of these guys who's good at look incredible for the first couple of minutes of a match. Like, oh, Kyle O'Reilly might be in trouble. He's bigger than him, but Kyle O'Reilly's gonna have to use his technical style, his strikes to get the upper hand, and he did. And I'm ready to see Kyle O'Reilly. But this was not Kyle O'Reilly versus Bounty Keith. It was a step down in terms of how great that match was, and how Kyle O'Reilly looked like he was boom back like that right away. This was just kind of like, let's get Kyle O'Reilly out there, give him a quick win. The Kingdom come out again and put him on their shoulders, which means like the next time Kyle O'Reilly wins a match, they're going to come out there. He's going to do the no, don't put me on your shoulders. I'm not trying to do all that, as he's been alluding in his backstage interviews. I'm trying to do this on my own. I don't need the Kingdom. I want to do this my way, and eventually him and Roddy Strong will have a title match, which is good, because they do the Adam Cole Kyle O'Reilly story too much. I want to see Adam Cole Roddy Strong. I want to see Kyle O'Reilly Roddy Strong at this point, instead of Adam Cole and KOR doing it for the 20th time. It's a story I like. I've just seen it before. Then the Thunder Rosa match happened, where she beat Lady Frost. I like Lady Frost. I like her athletic ability. And Thunder Rosa, like I said, I'm not a fan of. I don't think she's looked all that impressive since coming back. I know she had an injury, or so she said. But what she's been doing in the ring hasn't really impressed me. I'm not trying to judge her quick on like she needs to be back to what she was before, because the last kind of few matches she had as women's champion were great. Her and Toni Storm at Forbidden Door 1 was probably my second favorite match on the show. And her and Serena Deeb at Double or Nothing, again, was like my second or third favorite match on that show. So I know Thunder Rosa is capable of going in the ring. because she gave Jade Cargill her best match in the TBS title tournament, the semifinals. I think that was the best match Jade Cargill had in AEW was with Thunder Rosa. But this version of Thunder Rosa, she hasn't looked ready to get the title match that quickly, and that's what I'm not excited to see. I want to see her, spend a little bit more time, because if they're setting this up for Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm at Dynasty, again, you're rushing too soon with this match. If this was being played out at Double or Nothing, it would make me much more comfortable of her having an extra month to get properly prepared for a match. Maybe she's kind of in that Stone Cold stage where she's having to work a different style just due to the injury, which would make sense because they were saying it was a neck last night, but I thought the whole point of it was a back injury. I didn't follow too much of what it was supposed to be. But like I said last time I talked about her was that she was on the first batch of Collision promos and didn't debut till the end of the year. And those promos aired in, April, May. But this match of her and Lady Frost was so. It just, again, didn't do anything to excite me. Again, Lady Frost was someone who, like I said earlier, is someone for Deanna Roger to pick up a win again, even though I think they probably already face each other. But those credible looking contenders for women to face in AEW. Mariah, did she already face Lady Frost? That's the thing. I'll have to look that up. Not doing my due diligence. That's women business. Again, if you want to see great AEW women's talk, this past episode of All Elite with Keeks. I'm not just plugging that because it's Kiki, but I'm just saying, like, she really broke it down over there. But yeah, and Thunder Rosa at the end, it pissed me off when she said what she said to the camera about she's busting her ass week after week. I'm like, you just got back. Toni Storm's been here the whole time busting her ass. She was busting her ass when she briefly held the title, losing it to Jamie Hayter, and then she figured out a way to fucking reinvent herself after the Outcast disaster into time with Toni Storm, and she's been busting her ass as time with Toni Storm since then. So you're the last person to talk about busting their ass week after week and putting respect on her name because you didn't respect her and the whole women's division by not dropping the title if you knew you were going to be out that long. And that's been my whole issue with Thunder Rosa is the whole vacating the title situation was if you knew you're going to be injured, you didn't need to hold it up the way it did. That's the only time I'm like, Britt Baker's in the right when she said what she's doing is fucked up. If you know you're injured, just give up the title and don't make the rest of us seem bad. Because again, Tony Khan, after the fact, had to say this title reign did count it, even though an interim title only counts when you defeat the actual champion, but she never got to that point. But again, this will be the winner. This will be what MJF and CM Punk was supposed to be at some point last year, where I never lost the title, so I'm the real world champion. They kind of could have done that, where Thunder Rosa had said, I'm still the world champion and carried her belt if she has one. But I don't want them doing something like that. But that's the story. Thunder Rosa never lost that title, and she's coming to get it back. Like I said, maybe it'll surprise me and actually turn out to be a compelling match. But as of right now, just based off how Thunder Rosa's looked, I don't think she'll be able to hang with Toni Storm at the rate Toni Storm's been going. And the main event, before I wrap up, is Blackpool Combat Club and Katsuyori Shibata. Anya, remember the BCC. He should be inducted after facing Bryan Danielson because he, like I said, they slapped the shit out of each other in that match. And I thought that was the induction method based off William Regal and Wheeler Yuta is that once you get the shit slapped out of you by someone in the BCC, you're BCC for life. Face Lance Archer and the Righteous. I'm not a big fan of the Righteous. They're good for what they do. I just, it doesn't really work for me. And I do like Lance Archer. Even though I'm one of those people, like, as much as he says they should use him more, it's like, well, that means you got to take L's, and you're someone who seems like you don't want to lose because Orange Cassidy beat you by countout. Claudio didn't even beat you by pinfall submission. It was a DQ. So again, he didn't take the fall in the 8-man All-Star Scramble. So if you want to be on TV, you gotta take some L's. Don't do that. It ain't gonna work for me, brother. Politics, because you ain't been on TV enough for your losses to really hurt you that much. Um, and you're also not TV enough to win. And when you do win, you face jobbers. You beat them in 3 seconds. So, but yeah, I wasn't excited about this. This match was just flat to me. Again, like Collision was bad with the exception of the Kyle O'Reilly in action match. But yeah, Claudio and Lance Archer, they had their spot where they went at it, and the Righteous, they looked like they could hang with Shibata and Danielson and Claudio, but it was just not a entertaining match to me. That's where I was like, I don't get how you put on an amazing Dynamite like they did on Wednesday, and right after it booked 2 shows where Tony Khan saying we're the best wrestle was not the focal point of Rampage and Collision. It was the exact opposite. You can't say we're the best wrestle and give me Matt Menard, Dustin Rhodes. You can't say we're the best wrestle and give me the Righteous in the main event on Collision. Okay, it's just, or at Matt Cardona and Adam Copeland. You can't. That's the thing where Tony Khan gets out of himself, just like he did with the title will always main event the show, and then MJF was champion, and then main eventing didn't matter so much if you had the world title or not. So, but it'll be the same thing with Dynasty, because Samoa Joe's going to be the main event over Danielson and Ospreay. Come on. They already gave us the Sting retirement match this year as the main event instead of a Samoa Joe title match. So Samoa Joe, as world champion, kind of in the same boat as MJF was as champion, where the world title matters, but these other matches matter more. And that's my whole thing of if it's the main event, then put the best match last, or not the most important match, not the one that you're deeming. But that's all another thing. When we talk about WrestleMania, I'll get into the main event discussion I had about a week or 2 ago about why it matters and actually why it doesn't matter when you think about it. But still, again, these are all just my unpopular AEW opinions. You can follow me on Twitter at Davis, aka Drip. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'm going to try to do some more pop culture stuff going forward, some more movie, TV talk that I don't cover on Banks versus Davis, just because it's something that Banks might not watch or follow like I do. But like I said, we'll be back this Tuesday with a new episode. We weren't live last week. We might be live this week. So that's why you got to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. So you'll be notified as soon as we go live. We appreciate likes, comments, all that. Share it. Get our YouTube exclusive. So make sure you are doing all that. And thank you all for tuning in. This is Davis featuring Drip. I don't have an intro outro yet. I've been trying to work on that. I just worked on that logo the past few days, but I'm trying to come up with some more stuff. But thank y'all for tuning in to my rants and ramblings of what I hate. I know I shit on a lot of stuff. There's nothing more annoying than someone who just says, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. But there was some great stuff in AEW. It was all Dynamite focused, though. Like I said, everything on Dynamite to me was good. As much as the Young Bucks angered me, I really enjoyed that Private Party match. And I enjoy seeing Private Party back. I'm glad Mark Quinn is healthy and is able to show out. Shibata Ospreay, like I said, that's that wrestling. That's that hard-hitting action that I love watching wrestling. And again, like I said, I don't like the man, but I'll give him credit for going out there and killing it with Takeshita. And Takeshita, like I said, he's that match they announced with him, I think Shun Skywalker, Shota Umino. Oh God, I can't remember. They announced it for the All-Star Spectacular or something like that they're doing. Anyway, Takeshita will be in a 6-man match that I'm very looking forward to, because I want to see all those guys in that match interact with each other for New Japan Dragon Gate. It's that super show they're doing where all the companies in Japan are getting together and sharing their talent. Probably due to the fact that New Japan isn't doing so well, so they want to rely on all the other companies to do their work. But yeah, and what else was good? Again, Tony Storm's still killing it, even though the Ben Mankiewicz thing was lesser than her own individual promo work. But she's still probably the best thing in AEW to me this time with Toni Storm. The act of her Mariah May and Luther now showing kind of more elements to his character and more screen time and theatrics is working for me. But yeah, I'm sorry if you don't. I'm not even sorry if you disagree with me, because again, y'all who say everything about AEW is so great, you got to look in the mirror and be like, was it really that great? Come on. But thank y'all. Appreciate y'all tuning in. See you next time. Peace.